So, once seen as a shining example of how to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, Taiwan is now experiencing rising daily infections. Cases are climbing, and even more restrictive lockdowns are looming as the virus imposes a renewed threat on the island. Taiwan saw 0 reported infections for 253 straight days last year between April and December. In total, there's only been 14 confirmed COVID-19 deaths. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. So Ramy Inocencio has been reporting on this story and joins me now from Hong Kong. Ramy, those statistics are stunning, to say the least. But what is happening now? What is life like in Taiwan? How did things begin to unravel?
Sure, Anne-Marie, and good morning there. You're right, stunning in a good way from April to December of last year with no COVID case whatsoever. But things started to turn in a reversal of fortunes about a month ago. That is when the first cases came through, and we've been seeing that basically see a massive upsurge in just the past week, maybe 10 days or so. Now, looking back in the past maybe 7 or 8 days, the total number of cases that Taiwan has reported has actually doubled in just that short amount of time. And you can imagine that after having gone nearly a year and a half, living as if COVID never happened at all, which to most of us is almost unbelievable. Now there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of frustration, even a little bit of anger as to how COVID was able to get into this island of 24 million people. Now, the reason for that, it all stems back to China Airlines cargo pilots. Now, for a while, they had to undergo quarantine measures at quarantine hotels on the order of 2 weeks. Then that started to get smaller and smaller, up to a point in middle April, where it got down to 3 days. Now, remember, the incubation time for COVID could be anywhere on the order from 7 days to 14 days. So the idea that they could only needed to quarantine for 3 days, a lot of people are very upset at that. So basically, cargo pilots, flight attendants, their family members, and then it gets into the murkier waters of the red light districts in Taipei, where some people visited hostess bars. Of course, they didn't want to be identified with that, and after the past several days, now we see this affecting many people across the island. The island is under a level of 3 alert. That's 1 level down from a potential national lockdown.
So just remind us, though, why the infection rate was so low in 2020 there, especially given Taiwan's proximity to China.
Sure. It doesn't have to do so much with its proximity to China per se. It actually has to do with how fast they nipped COVID in the bud early on. For example, in December, in January, some of the first video that came out from the Greater China region, from Taiwan, was actually Taiwanese health officials scanning people coming back from Wuhan to Taiwan, and they were wearing hazmat suits themselves, and they were checking people's temperatures. And they had learned what to do from back in 2003 during the SARS crisis that started in China and then spread through Hong Kong, Taiwan, and then parts of North America and the rest of the world. But the fact that they had this experience, they were able to set up a command and control and communication structure from that experience, and that enabled them to act quickly. But some say that the confidence from the past year and a half turned into complacency, and this is where Taiwan is now.
But what we do have now that we didn't have a year ago are vaccines, and that's part of the reason that we're seeing, states and cities open up here in the U.S. is because of the success of the vaccine rollout. What's the situation in terms of the vaccine rollout there?
Right. It has been slow. A lot of critics are piling onto this. Less than 1% of Taiwan's population has been vaccinated. Some put it at about maybe 0.8%. Looking at it across other Asian countries and territories, it's one of the worst, if not the worst, vaccinated in all of Asia. And on a list of countries around the world compared to that, Taiwan ranks at the bottom 10. But the reason for this is because of a couple things. One, they can't get vaccines, even though Taiwan has ordered it. They've ordered on the order of about 20 million vaccine doses, most of that from AstraZeneca, some of that from Moderna. That hasn't come in yet. It's supposed to come in no later than June, according to the government. But the fact that COVID hasn't really spread across the island, at least until the past few weeks, that's led to a sense of apathy. And people have said, you know what, if COVID isn't here, why do I actually need to get a vaccine? And so we've seen these border bans, these 14-day quarantines for most people be the sort of frontline defense. But then there also has to be a back-end defense. And so a lot of people didn't do that. And that has to be both the front side and the backside in order to make sure that this didn't happen. And so the fact that just 1% of people in Taiwan are vaccinated now, basically a lot of people have been trying to get vaccines, but they just don't have enough for them.
Oh, wow. Ramy, you were in Hong Kong. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed.
You bet.